Hey everyone, I'm Cameron with SpeedCubeShop.com, and today we're gonna look at the real Tornado version 4. Let's dive in. So a lot of people were kind of let down that the V4 Flagship isn't really all that different from the V3. It essentially was just more internal upgrades, and the whole goal was just for it to not really break, which it's not really a secret that the V3 is a phenomenal cube. It set 4 world records in 3x3 speed solve, average, one-handed, and one-handed average, but it just would break in lots of different creative ways, like the core, the corners, I think magnets would fall out too. Like there just was really a lot of different ways this thing would just fall apart. But now we have the V4 Pioneer, which is supposed to be the real V4, and it has this cool thing that Mike from SpeedCube NZ and I've kind of dubbed as being called Predator magnets. And yeah, so the thing about the Predator magnets, which is like the first big difference that you see when comparing the Pioneer to the Flagship, is according to Jaden, so if this is wrong, it's on him. He says that he verified with other magnets that the 2 small outer magnets actually repel while the inner one attracts, like a typical magnet layout would. Now, we both have had our theories as to why that would be, what it would do. My theory was if they're opposing, it might make the turning a bit faster, because we had that one MGC cube way back in the day that had all opposing magnets. Remember how? Yeah. I can't remember what it was called, but it turned really fast. So that was kind of my theory, because what's odd about the V4 Pioneer, it's actually slower, and it has maglev, which is another big difference over the V4 Flagship, which uses springs. But typically maglev cubes are a lot faster than the spring counterparts, and this one is actually significantly more controllable. They're both on the same settings, which we'll talk about the differences with the dual adjustment systems here in a bit. So that was kind of surprising. The V4 Pioneer also comes with UV coating. I'm not too sure if they're gonna do a Pioneer version without the UV coating. We had that in the V3, but they kind of released that incrementally over time. So we'll see. I definitely am a fan of the UV coating. It's nice and like glazed donut-y. So definitely a fan of that, but their frosted isn't bad in either. I mean, it's very kind of like a semi-gloss, but it's not glossy, but it's also more shiny than other matte finishes that we've seen in the past have been. What's odd is that the V3 maglev is fast, like you would expect, but this V4 is just not that fast. And I actually am a huge fan of this, because more controllable cubes I think are better for competition. You're more nervous, your turning might not be as accurate, can help you really kind of not overshoot and make mistakes. So I'm a fan, but it's just odd. One other thing is, you know, the corner cutting, it's pretty comparable. I think that the Flagship is marginally better when it comes to corner cutting, which isn't really a surprise because springs do tend to corner cut better than maglev does. The reverse corner cutting is, I think, about the same. Doesn't really feel like too much of a difference. There's a bit more resistance with the Pioneer. It just has a bit more of like a clacky sound, whereas the Flagship, you can hear like that pitch difference. You know, this still doesn't have huge differences. Like I think some people were kind of expecting a full revamp for the V4, but I really don't think that it needed a full revamp, because the V3 is such a good cube that if we can just fix some of those weak points that it had, I think we're having a really solid winning combination. We observed that the V4 Flagship, the corner magnets and the foot of the corner protruded out less than the V3. This does look to be about the same, so they maintain that. We do still have the same corner adjustment for the magnets as the Flagship, so that did not change. The ball core looks to be the same. Maybe the magnets are stronger. The thing that's been tricky about this is there isn't really a lot of like marketing brochures yet from Qi, so we don't know, is this supposed to have an auto alignment? If so, what's it supposed to be? Because one thing about the V4 Pioneer that surprised both Jaden and I is most ball cores have some level of auto alignment, but this just doesn't. Like you can see we're like that far away and it's not pulling in the layer. Whereas on GAN's auto alignment, like on the 14 Pro, it's borderline intrusive and it will like complete your turn when you're like halfway. Like it's hard to even get it at 45 degrees. So I can kind of go either way with the auto alignment. I think this feels just fine, but it'll be interesting to see if one is actually supposed to be present. Looking at the dual adjustment on the Pioneer and on the Flagship, the first thing that's most notable is that on the Flagship, you have this transparent ring, whereas on the Pioneer, you have this like primary plastic, kind of like opaque. I do like the primary more, even though the transparent looks cooler, because you can actually see a bit more clearly with the primary one. What's odd is that on the Pioneer, you can see that it's set to 3 and 3, but it's offset. What I mean by that is the little circle right there is not aligned with like the notch on the centerpiece. So you can see it's 3 and 3, it's both yellow, but it's offset. On the Flagship, you can see that 3 and 3 is dead center. So it's the same. Little bit of a design change, which I think has to do with the difference of maglev and spring. One thing that Jaden also pointed out, on the Pioneer, the way the numbers go is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. On the Flagship, you just have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the same order. So if you do end up getting both versions, something to keep in mind, but not really a big deal. Just, I think, a difference in how they adjust. Oh, and the V3 is actually the same as the new Pioneer. So I guess that isn't anything new. I just haven't really looked under the hood of one of these for a while. What's interesting is when it just comes to pure turning, I do prefer the Flagship. It's super buttery, it's effortless to turn, it just feels good. It's also a lot more flexible too, which depending on your turning style, I'll have to admit mine went from being very accurate back in the day to now being a bit more sloppy and kind of relying on the mechanism a bit more. But on the V4, it's more of like this is the cube I'm gonna use if I'm competing. This is the cube I'm gonna use if I'm just casually solving and having fun. And actually, it might not be a bad idea to pick up both. And this is like your warm-up cube, and this is your competition cube. So if you do buy them both, get them at SpeedCubeShop. So with that, I'm gonna do just a few solves on each and just see if anything really stands out to me. So I'm gonna start off with the V4 Flagship. Oh man. See, that's where the flex is already kind of working against me. Yeah, I definitely feel like it's a bit more catchy. Wow, that is a slow solve for me. Oh my gosh. A nice F2L with a terrible. Oh.
Hold on. We gotta
All right, it's good. It's clean. It is clean.
It is good. We're good.
It's clean. Here, you hop in here and do some solves. Yeah, Jaden's a more accredited SpeedCuber than I am at this point. I'm retired. He still cares about getting faster. So here, switching.
Dude, it sucks too because I've kind of like stopped practicing 3x3. I've been doing like 7x7 recently. So we'll start with the Flagship. Okay, I see something that might be good, but I almost guarantee I'm gonna mess it up. Oh yeah, I definitely did. Okay, PLL skip. That saved the solve for sure.
Oh, it's looking pretty good. Oh.
About the same.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I will say.
That was a sketchy timer stop though.
Yeah, it definitely was. I will say I like almost like the tightness of this cube, just to make sure that my turning is accurate, and definitely in competition setting, I can definitely see that being beneficial. But I think for one-handed, I would like the Flagship more because of the flexibility.
Do yourself on the V3 and just,
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we'll wrap up with that.
Okay.
At least get those clean timer starts. Oh.
That one was faster.
Wow.
I think, and I don't want to be like, you know, I would say it's probably because I'm more comfortable with the V3 because I used it a lot more.
Do you think it's really that different over the V4 turning feel-wise?
I can definitely feel a difference. It's not like a super, super big difference, but it's like, I can definitely tell that the V4 is slightly different. It feels a little bit more unique, but it still has that kind of like resemblance of the V3 feel.
All right, well, thanks for watching. Subscribe, enjoy. Any questions, let us know. Bye.